Hi, welcome to our session on RAMP, which is the Recognized ASCA Model Program. And this is being presented to you by the Atherton High School Counseling Team. Our team consists of 5 counselors. I'm Tinika Campbell. We also have Amy Medley, Anetria Swanson, Sarah Uhl, and Judith White. So, what is RAMP? It is as I said, recognized ASCA Model Program, and it's an exemplary professional development experience that supports counselors in our efforts to align our counseling program with the ASCA national model. Some of the benefits of RAMP are free membership for all school counselors as long as you have the RAMP distinction. You get an engraved plaque, other recognition, including recognition at ASCA's annual conference. The biggest benefit for our team was the intentional focus of our counseling program and being able to clearly communicate that as we advocated for our program with our advisory council and principals. So it's a really great way to be intentional about focusing on those things that we really want to do and need to do for our students. So if you are considering RAMP, the application submission is in October. So you would start working on it when you return to school and complete the components during the school year. So the application would be submitted the following year for work that you do this school year. The After you submit, the following January is when you will be notified of your status. If you need to resubmit something, the resubmission is due in February, and then notification for resubmission status is in April. I will say before you start the components, really make sure you have planned and looked through everything that we will present here today. So, some of the things to consider before starting RAMP: ask for a RAMP coach. Carefully review the RAMP book, rubrics, and any available resources. Create a schedule and assign tasks at the beginning. And that's if you have a team. If you are at a school where you're the only counselor, then of course you would be responsible for each of the tasks unless you had someone you were working with. So, with the RAMP coach, you will need and appreciate the support. So, we met with Michelle Searcy, and she was able to provide funding to pay for our RAMP coach. And so, there is a link here if you click on RAMP coach that takes you to the ASCA website to give you a little bit more information about what the RAMP coach does. But they will meet with you and your team regularly and provide direction and feedback that is invaluable. You will want to review the RAMP book that we all call the Blue Book. It's the ASCA National Model Implementation Guide. Once you review the components in this book, meet as a team and determine if this is the right time to pursue RAMP. And there is a link here that will take you to the ASCA website to read a little bit more about RAMP. But you want to get a clear understanding based on the rubrics, which are linked here, of what you will need to do. Buy-in and support is needed by everyone on your team, the admin team, all of the leaders of your school, including the principal. Assign tasks at the start. So if you are in a building where you have more than one counselor, teamwork makes the dream work. So in order to manage the workload, divide the task between your team, including the lesson plans, topics for discussion during advisory council meetings, and the application components. and there are a total of 10 of those. You will want to build from the annual administrative conference that we already complete each year with our counseling program focus. So if you look at your annual administrative conference, we usually include our vision and mission for our counseling program, and then we go into our goals. So for RAMP, the starting point for RAMP is to choose two goals. They have to be measurable. You will want to follow the guidelines in the book and on the rubric closely and review the rubric before choosing goals. If you get a ramp coach, ask them to be there when you determine the goals that you would like to focus on. If you have a team, ask your team for ideas regarding the goals and then meet and use a process of elimination to determine which goals will meet the rubric requirements. And then consider what data you will need to collect. A lot of times we focus on a lot of different things to meet the needs of students. So for this, you're going to want to focus on two things that you can clearly identify measurable goals for and collect data on. You will need for each of those your lessons pre and post test data. You want to make sure that your pre and post tests are not anonymous. That was something we learned after the fact and had to go back and redo some things. So you want to make sure that your pre and post test data that you collect, student name, grade, race, student email in case you need to follow up, and then select your questions carefully. Finally, be sure that the same students complete both the pre and post test in a timely manner. So you want to make sure you have their names so you know which students completed both the pre and post test. Those are things that you could do if you're doing lessons in the classroom. You could have them do the pre and post test right there with you while you're in there, and that way you can ensure that they're submitted. We used Google Forms for our pre and post test, so it was easy to have the students submit it right away, collect the data, and of course, with the Google Form, it gives you the spreadsheet and graph, so it's easier to review the data. As a team, meet regularly. Set a day and time that you're going to meet. Now that we will be back in person, you want to make sure that your time is scheduled outside of the school day so that it's not interrupted. We know how the day goes for counselors, and most of our meetings, it's really difficult to sit and have an hour of uninterrupted time during the school day. So you want to keep that sacred time and space and be consistent with it. Everyone on your team should commit to the day and time and try to avoid scheduling anything else during that time. You're also going to want to keep notes of discussions that you have as a team, thoughts of when you're coming up with goals, decisions that you're making. So you want to make sure that there is a note taker for every meeting and that all members of the team are able to access the notes afterward. Organization is key. You will want to download all the RAMP templates. They are linked here, and organize the documents in a Google Drive. Once you have everything there, that is where you will want to upload things as you complete them. Review the application portal for the actual RAMP application, and that is linked here. And you will want to set deadlines for each requirement. Because we do get so busy as counselors, if you do not set those deadlines, you're less likely to hit each of the time benchmarks that you plan for. And then you want to make sure you schedule your advisory council meetings well in advance. And that is another part of our annual administrative agreement where you list the month or the specific date that you plan to hold your advisory council meetings. In those meetings, be transparent. Paint a picture of what you're doing and why. We've realized after our first or second meeting this past year that with the pandemic, we had gone over a lot of data and specific things that we were doing to address students' academic needs, but we really were not clear in painting a picture of how we were supporting our students' social emotional needs. And so we were very intentional in our last meeting of outlining specific things we were doing to address all of the barriers that students have to their academic success. Again, assign a note taker because you will have to record your advisory council minutes on one of the RAMP templates. If you are meeting virtually, record the meeting. That will help ensure you're able to go back and fill in any gaps in your notes. And it's also something that you can send out to any members who were not able to make the meeting. You will create a presentation that is filled with data you want to present information. Make sure that you stay on topic and then allow time at the end for questions and answers. So there are 10 RAMP components. Because we have a team of 5 counselors, we were able to break these into 2 components per counselor. If you have a smaller team, you can figure out what works the best for you all. If you are in elementary school or in a middle school where you're the only counselor, then of course you will be responsible for all the components. It doesn't mean you can't do it. It will be a lot, but it is manageable if you plan ahead. So, the vision and mission statement, again, is something that you will have in your annual administrative conference. That's something that you can revise and adjust as you go through the ramp process because you may see that you need to make changes to that. You will have to create 2 student outcome goals based on a school data summary that you will complete. And that's where you will really focus on just 2 things you're going to do to address academics, behavior, or attendance. We stayed away from attendance this past school year because due to NTI, we were not able to get a clear picture of student attendance. So we focused on 2 academic goals. One thing that was very hard for us with the goals is we wanted to see progress and we wanted to set the bar high, but our coach advised us that what we want to show is that our strategies, our lessons, everything aligned with the goals we set, even if we did not actually reach that goal. And one of ours was a go for failing grades. And of course, with NTI, we had more failing grades than we've ever had, but we were very intentional still with the strategies and activities that we were doing to reach our students. The classroom and group mindsets and behaviors action plan is where you're going to just go through the document that has the ASCA mindsets and behaviors, and you're going to identify small group or classroom lessons that you're doing to address each of those. All of this information is available in the link I provided in one of the earlier slides, but this is basically you're going to put in writing some of the things that you're already doing and just showing how they align with the ASCA mindsets and behaviors. The annual administrative conference is just like what we do for Michelle each year, and you will just have to attach a couple of documents to that, just to support some of the things that you say you're going to do. For advisory council, you will be required to submit your agenda, supporting materials, and minutes for a fall meeting and for a spring meeting. We held 3 advisory council meetings this year, but we only have to submit the information for 2 of those. So you may meet with your advisory council multiple times throughout the year, but you will only submit information from 2 of those meetings. Component 6 are your calendars. So you will be required to submit an annual calendar, and there's a great example of that in the Blue Book that kind of shows you how you will organize your information. You will also submit a weekly calendar. That will be the annual calendar. You will submit one for your entire counseling team. The weekly calendar will be submitted by each individual counselor. Your weekly calendars should not all be the same because everyone should not be doing the exact same activities all day, every day. In addition to the weekly calendar, you will submit a use of time calculator with your annual administrative conference that shows how you have evaluated 1 week in the fall and 1 week in the spring to ensure that it's aligning with your use of time that you included in the annual administrative conference. You only have to submit 2 calendars, so if you do a use of time on one of your weeks and you find that it doesn't align, then you can choose a different week. If you don't have any that match your use of time in your annual administrative conference, you may need to make adjustments to that to ensure that that lines up. Component 7 are the lesson plans. You will have a total of 7 lesson plans to submit. Um, you will submit, I believe it's 3 or 4 classroom, and then you will also submit group lesson plans. You will want to make sure that you have a pre and post test for each of the lessons that you submit, and that you keep that attached and you have the data to turn in with those. If you have a team, again, those lessons should be split up. And I apologize for the hesitation. I had a disturbance, but those lessons should be split up by the team. It shouldn't be one person doing all of the classroom and group lessons. The final 3 components are your results. So for each classroom lesson and each small group lesson, you will have to fill out a reflection and information for those. The final component, the closing the gap action plan, the action plan and results report are together on one document. The closing the gap action plan comes from one of your 2 goals. So when you develop your 2 annual student outcome goals, you want to make sure that one of those can be used for your closing the gap. You don't have to create a third goal for that. You can use one of those. And again, you will have to just give additional information about how that goal is being used to close the gap, and then be able to present that information and the results that come as from the lessons that you've taught or the activities that you have engaged in with students. So this is an overview of the 10 components. Again, If you follow one of the links that was provided, you can look at it. I know it's a lot better to have a visual to be able to see each of these kind of broken down. So I started with downloading the templates and kind of printing those out, putting them in a binder, and just going through each, or just going through them in the Google Drive if you prefer to just look at them on your computer. But kind of familiarize yourself with what each of those templates looks like. And then again, look in the blue book for examples. There are examples for different grade levels, some elementary, some middle, and some high. We are also um, willing to provide examples. We are still in the process. We are planning to submit this October, but we are willing to share anything that we can. So we're here if you need us. And remember, you can do hard things. This is a lot. People say, why in the world would you want to do this? We are blessed to be in a position where our principal is very supportive of our counseling program. He has removed a lot of non counseling duties from us and hired a fifth counselor last school year. So we feel like we're in a pretty good spot. However, things can always change. And so earning ramp distinction shows that we are focused, we're intentional, we have data to back up everything that we're doing with kids, and we're sharing that information with stakeholders in our advisory council meetings. And so if there are proposed changes to the counseling program or responsibilities, we have community members and parents and administrators and teachers and students who could step up and say, hey, this is what they're doing. This is how what they're doing is impacting students, because that's what it's all about. We do a lot of things every day, but RAMP forces you to prove how what you do every day is impacting student achievement. And so it has been a lot. As we have time to answer questions, you can ask. We were crazy enough to pursue this during the pandemic, and there were multiple times we were ready to throw in the towel, but we really do see the benefit and follow through, not just the recognition, but the sense of accomplishment and knowing that we pushed ourselves to go above and beyond to meet the needs of our students. So I have provided each of our email addresses here. Sarah Uhl is our counselor who works with Freshman Academy. The other four of us work with our other career academies. We have media arts, health sciences, and engineering, and then we split the alphabet for our non academy students. So any of us are here available, willing to answer questions, to provide support. If you are considering this and you really want to know the real deal, it was not easy. It is not easy, but we reminded ourselves if it was easy, everybody would do it. But as I said before, you can do hard things, and our kids deserve they deserve it. This is an excellent way to advocate for your school counseling program and to hold yourself accountable for making sure you are doing the things that you love to do for kids. So at this time, we will have time for any questions you have. And again, please feel free to contact us if you have additional questions or need any support. Thank you.